What's going on, everyone? Welcome on into another episode of Golf on Tap. Today, we'll be recapping last week's Sentry to kick off the new season. Kirk with a major win in a mammoth field. We'll also be getting to this week's Sony Open as the PGA Tour remains in Hawaii but jumps from Maui to Honolulu. We'll also be talking Tiger Woods and Nike's relationship coming to an end, a blunder from the PGA Tour with Q School this week at the Sony Open. We got a lot of good stuff to get into. First, though, I want to say thank you to everyone out there for tuning in. Make sure to go and hop into the YouTube stream as well and hit that like button. You can also go and throw some comments in there as well. We love interacting with all you fans out there, and let us know who you're going to be tailing this week for the Sony Open at Wailea Country Club. Per usual, I'm Jack Bushman, joined by the newest member of the On Tap Sports Network, I believe, in Ross Baran, who's now going to be joining me as not only are we going to be diving into the betting aspects of On Tap Golf, which we've been doing for a year and a half, 2 years now, but we're more so going to get into just the daily news of everything that's going on and the craziness that surrounds the golf world right now. It truly is a whirlwind, and I'm certainly excited to introduce to all of you my new co-host in Ross Baran. Ross, first, just want to say thank you for joining the show, and thank you for joining the On Tap Sports Network, my friend. How's everything been since you joined, and how's today treating you, brother?
Well, first of all, thanks, Jack, for having me on. Super excited to do this with you. Everything has honestly been a whole whirlwind, but super exciting. Always love sports, always love the game of golf. Never really thought I would find my way and to be able to write and do something like this, but hey, it's here and I'm super happy for the opportunity. It all kind of came together really quickly. As I'm sure you know, Bruno for the On Tap football, college football, filled in a couple shows when Chris wasn't able to do it, just because me and Bruno are buddies from college. Did a couple of those, and Tony liked what he saw, reached out to me, saw my passion for golf, and here we are. It's been several weeks, been writing for about 2 months now, and really enjoying it, loving the opportunity. So super glad to have this opportunity with you, and really glad to cover this upcoming PGA Tour season from here.
Yeah, it was an excellent time for you to jump aboard, Ross, because, man, there is just so much going down in the world of golf right now. We're going to be talking about some of that here on today's episode. But before we get into that, I do want to let all the viewers out there know that Ross has been posting a lot of great articles over the past week and a half, however long it's been since he joined. He's been pumping out some good articles. Got some good stuff out today about Tiger Woods and Nike, which we're going to get to that as well. Some stuff about the Q School blunder that went down in Hawaii, which is a really unfortunate scene. If you want to get all the details on that, make sure to go and check out Ross's articles at the On Tap Sports Network. But Ross, to kick things off here on the show, we got a full list of things to break down, but I think we got to start with the first event of the new 2024 season, the PGA Tour back to the calendar year schedule. Things kicked off last week with the Sentry, no longer the Sentry Tournament of Champions, as they've dropped that name since it's, no longer just the champions in the field. It's been bumped up to 59 after being like a 30-man field for most of the tournament's history. And I'll tell you what, Ross, I went pretty in depth into breaking down this tournament, man. I was getting the itch all throughout the winter for golf season to come back. And, I love betting on golf week in and week out. So I was really putting in the effort and trying to find those fine details of guys that I was going to tail this week. Kirk wasn't even on my radar by a long shot, but man, what a spectacular performance from him. A lot of spectacular performances from the youngsters as well. We'll talk about a couple of them in just a second. But what were your thoughts on the Sentry, the first tournament of the year, and Kirk going and getting it done over some big dogs?
So first thing, there were a lot of players for the Sentry that I thought have been laying low for quite some time. We have not seen a lot out of these guys. The first one to come to mind is Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth has just been a kind of middle of the pack guy for so long lately. Was, as Kevin Kisner would say, dubbed the golden boy, the golden child. he came on the tour. He won immediately. He won all these majors, part of the President's Cup, the Ryder Cup, everything. And then for the past several years has just been a middle of the pack guy. Jordan Spieth, the putting was deadly from 25 feet plus this week.
Made everything.
Which is funny because I mean we're gonna get into Kiz a little bit later with him being on the broadcast, but from dead, just dead on from 25 feet, just burying these things that were, it's up and over a mountain, and he's dropping it. And personally, I think with the way the PGA Tour is going, with losing John Rahm and players like that to the Live Tour, I think you need to step up from players like Jordan. Personally, if he continues to play the way he showed us at the Sentry, I'm not going to count Jordan out for, winning 3, 4 events, which I think is a reasonable thing. I'm not saying a major, but, if Jordan can come back, win 3, 4 events this year, just make a name for himself again, I think it's a really big boost to the PGA Tour, especially with him taking that role that Rory McIlroy has stepped off of in the past. But also the young guns. The young guns were unbelievable. People like Akshay Bhatia, Sahith Theegala. It was really impressive to see them come out. I think one of the things that impressed me most is the most likable person on tour. I don't know if you personally have followed and watched the Full Swing series on Netflix. Sahith Theegala is basically one of the most likable people you'll ever see. Like, they have the clips of him in that show from the 2022 Waste Management where he lost it towards the end, and he's giving his parents hugs. He's crying. I'm sorry. I let you down. I failed. It's really hard not to like a guy that takes the game so seriously. And what he's the biggest stickler about is his driving. It was super impressive to see he gained 1.8 strokes off the tee this week just to start the season. That's his biggest downfall, is he's not great off the tee. He'll put it together for the recovery, he'll put it together on the greens. It's off the tee is his struggle. He gained almost 2 shots off the tee just to start the year. If he can continue that, he's going to be someone that's going to have to be reckoned with. And I would see him taking a major step moving forward as we progress into the season, especially since he's already broken through and got his first win last year.
Yeah, a lot of people are rightfully so expecting big things out of Sahith Theegala this year, and it looked like he was going to start off the new year with maybe his second win in 4 months span, and it could have potentially waterfalled from there. Unfortunately for Sahith, didn't get the finish that he really wanted, missing that birdie putt on 18 ended up costing him the tournament, but still so much to be excited about with Sahith. He's actually been someone that I've been following since his time at Pepperdine. So it's been really cool to see him have this ascension, and now kind of the expectations that come with that, being a young guy who's finally broken through for that win. A lot of people expect him to rack them up this season as well. I'm curious as to what you thought about Akshay Bhatia. He's someone who I also have been following for the last couple of years as well. He was in the final pairing, was one off of the lead going into the final day, but his drive on one to start off Sunday went out of bounds. Unfortunately, he kicks things off with a double bogey, just wound up not being his day. And I know it was probably so tough for Akshay to acknowledge this or feel this way in the moment, but at the end of the day, he still has to be encouraged by teeing it up in the Sentry with, the best players on the PGA Tour. And at 21 years of age, he's already putting himself in positions to win against the best in the world. I know it wasn't the finish that he wanted, but I think he has to be excited about his chances moving forward this season. And I think a lot of people are excited about him as well.
Well, personally, I've always loved Akshay. I love the move that he was super young and tabbed early in all the U.S. amateur tournaments, everything like that, and he went a different route than most people go. Most people, when they're tabbed that young, they go play college golf. They get the experience, they go out, they play these tournaments. He didn't do that. He turned 18 and said, "I'm going pro." He played his way through Corn Ferry, everything, and he earned this opportunity. He won his first event last year. And like you said, he's only 21. He turned pro when he's 18. He grinded through, and where most people at 3 years of grinding on the Monday qualifiers and the Corn Ferry Tour, a lot of guys don't buy themselves time. He just kept pushing. He also has the YouTube stuff where he's worked with like Good and stuff like that, which always makes it fun because they're bringing the golf brand to light. But it was really impressive to see him come out, especially with the broom putter, everything knocking him down. And yeah, very unfortunate thing, you're in the final pairing on Sunday. Your first drive goes OB, but lessons learned, right? I think Akshay is one of the up and comers and going to bring a bigger audience to the game of golf in general, especially because his ties to good and stuff like that. I think we're going to have a newer audience come into the game of golf based on him, just the way he's playing. I will not be surprised to see him perform well going into the season. I don't have him at the top of my list, but I definitely have an eye on him. Just it's really been impressive to see him grind it out, get his tour card, get on tour, win an event, and then you know what? The Sentry, like we said, it was a limited field, but it's a field of the best golfers in the game. And sir, you worked your way into the final pairing in the final round. It didn't go how you planned, but you still played there. That's showing something about what your game has to show.
I completely agree. And I thought you brought up a great point about how Akshay has the potential to really grow the game of golf with what he's doing on YouTube. And I think this is such a great thing that Akshay is doing because it just shows that he's understanding the times and how much impact he can also make. And also, one thing I do want to point out, I'm sure it's not like too much of a hindrance to his career, but it's probably not ideal at the same time, right? Like creating YouTube content while still trying to go out and win tournaments and practice all the time. And you mentioned he's doing videos with Good. I know he just had a video come out last week with Grant Horvat as well. For him to still like dedicate time to do that at a young age while grinding, trying to like secure his spot on tour, I think that's even more impressive to me, and really well done by Akshay. But someone that I am right alongside you with, super high on him this year. Not the top of the list, but I think we're just going to see him take these next couple of years to really grow. And man, when he's 24 or 25, it's going to be scary, Ross. I was actually I was lucky enough to go to the Shriners Children's Open this year in September, I want to say, and Akshay was someone I followed for a little bit of it, and he hit this, first off, just any club that has a face on it, not irons, like a wood or a driver, he absolutely pummels that thing, dude. He hits ropes out there. And I watched him hit a 3-wood out of the bunker on a par 5 and just picked it clean to put it like 10 feet short of the green from like 250 out. I'm like, dude, all men are not created equal. Just watching Akshay do that, I'm like, oh my gosh, the talent that this kid has is bananas. But a lot of good performances from a lot of young guys at the Sentry. It was a really good tournament, I thought, to kick off the year. A really good finish, captivating down the stretch. I mean, looked like it was going to be a 6 or a 7 horse race there for a while. Lots of guys were in contention. Unfortunately, none of my guys ended up coming through. I had 3 guys finish T5, Ross. That's not the start to the year I needed, but shows me I'm on the right track nonetheless. Did you have any other thoughts you want to get to from the Sentry before we talk about Kiz here in a second?
Well, first of all, buddy, for the first tournament of the year, you having several guys finish T5, you're on the right track. Most of these guys, take into account, did not play a fall event. Period. Following the Tour Championship, going into the Ryder Cup, most of these guys sat out for the past 3 months, took their break because they knew that they're in the top 50 moving forward, and all they got to do is hold their place for the President's Cup. And that leads me into for the winner of the tournament, Kirk. Do you realize he was posting videos for the past 3 months? That man has been golfing left-handed for fun. Not even practicing his game, Chris Kirk going out to courses, playing left-handed for fun, And out of all of this, the man shot in 82.
Yeah, that's remarkable. I don't know. I don't know if Chris Kirk. I don't know if there was some correlation between him just kind of being carefree, going out left-handed in the offseason, not really worrying about things too much, and him coming through. But just a really cool story, and just a really unique guy who's had an interesting path. Obviously, battled alcoholism as well, and has overcame that, and is now sober, and 2 wins in the last 7 months. And as you mentioned, just someone who does things a little bit differently, isn't afraid to be outside of the box, man. I thought it was a really cool story to kick off the year.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, because you see these guys grinding constantly out on the range, hitting their shot. Oh, I don't hit my 7 iron this well. And Chris Kirk is just out there, fucking around. I'm gonna swing lefty. Oh, I just hit my lefty drive 220 off the tee. Maybe I'll par this hole. And then there was like he posted a whole interview like yesterday where he was like, oh yeah, I'd just go up there, I'd whack it lefty, it would go so far, then I'd pull out my 7 iron and I'd knock it to like 4 feet, and I'd walk up and be like, oh, I have a birdie putt.
Yeah, must be nice. Easy game, huh, Chris? I just thought Chris Kirk, I call him the mayor of Tempo Town because watching his swing is actually it's just such good tempo, such good flow. It looks like there's no effort there whatsoever. Maybe that's why he was just working on his lefty stroke in the offseason because he's like, I got this righty swing down. I need another challenge here.
Well, I mean, just coming off the whole, I when everyone else is off, he's out there playing lefty for the whole off season just for fun. You could tell on that final day going into the back nine that nothing bothered him, that he was just there for fun. I'm here, roll it, hole it, on to the next hole. There was no pressure, which was super impressive to see based on the field he's playing against, when he's got people like Jordan Spieth nicking at his heels, going low on the back nine, and he's just like, whatever. I'm gonna roll it, hole it, on to the next hole.
Yeah, it act like it was no big deal. That shot that he hit on 17, I think it was 206 yards out, just a perfect draw. The ball bounces right before the green, rolls up to about 3 feet. That was basically the dagger there. But you said it. He didn't miss a beat all day long, and he never looked like he was flustered. He just stayed in his own lane, stayed in his own gear, never, like even showed signs of worry or even on the flip side, like signs of excitement, just straight faced, going about his business, and he did it for all 18 holes to basically perfection, man. And look, like you said, Sahith Theegala nipping at his heels, Jordan Spieth, even Scotty Scheffler, who continues to not be able to make a putt, but still finds himself right in contention every week regardless. He was right there too. I mean, Chris Kirk going and getting it done over those guys, man, has to give him a huge boost of confidence to kick off this season.
Yeah, honestly, I would not be surprised after this past tournament to see Chris Kirk go on a run like Lucas Glover had in the middle end of summer last year, where just the confidence is high. Just keep rolling with it, man. I mean, it was impressive to see. You already know you can beat. You already know you can beat them. I mean, it's a different thing when there's 170 guys in the field, but also you just played a tournament where you had the top 60 in the world, aside from the live guys, were in that field. You beat them all.
And speaking of Chris Kirk, funny you say a Lucas Glover type run. I do have some liking for Chris Kirk this week at the Sony Open. We'll get to that in just a second, but we got to talk about Kevin Kisner first too, Ross, because Kiz obviously made his debut in the booth over the weekend at the Sentry, and I thought it was excellent. I thought he did a perfect combination of reading what was around him and what was going on. He wasn't trying to force himself into situations or conversations or butt in. I thought he gave just the perfect medium of, I thought he was a little quiet, but when he did talk, it was perfect what was needed and what was required of that moment of giving insight on a player or sharing some thoughts about what this guy might be trying to do to hit a shot. What were kind of your impressions of Kisner's debut?
So, so very simply, I related this to, he was almost the perfect Pat McAfee type, but a more resolved, retained version, because he's a golfer. He's not super outspoken, he's not super loud, but he brings that content that, you're not used to hearing from someone in the booth where he's funny, he has an opinion. It's a little over the top. I think my favorite thing, I don't know if you saw the clip that went viral, the Jordan Spieth 3-foot putt, and he
Just
and
make it,
he's
buddy.
he's just like, well, if I were him, I wouldn't, I would just tell him to stop overthinking it and just knock it down. And then Jordan lips the putt out, sits there, knocks it back in, and then walks back and goes, well, with the wind blowing right and the grain going left. And then Kevin Kisner's just like, Jordan, it's 3 foot, buddy, knock it down.
It couldn't have worked out any better. I mean, I'm sorry for Jordan Spieth that he ended up missing that putt, but literally as he's like looking over it like 3 or 4 times, kids like, just go roll it in, Jordan. Come on, bud. And of course he goes on to miss, but I thought Kisner was really solid, and I hope the PGA Tour implements more of him. I will say, I think in terms of the broadcasting, we've had such a low bar over the years that anything kind of would have made us feel this way. But I do still feel like Kisner is the perfect type of guy. Like, I feel like I'm sure he's not friends with everybody on the tour, Ross, but like he has that known personality where he can kind of like, I feel like he can be comfortable, maybe not throwing a jab, but just having a joke at the expense of someone and they won't take it personally. Like Kevin Kisner is just a comfortable guy. Like it feels like just someone you'd enjoy being around, enjoy talking to, enjoy joking about. And that will make it so like he can throw a little bit of a joke towards some guys when he's in the booth, like that Jordan Spieth situation, like it feels like Kiz is just that type of guy where he can do that stuff and get away with it because everyone likes him and he has a good relationship.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think just coming off his injury, doing the whole rehabilitation, I think everyone kind of fell in love with him where he was like that dark horse that made that President's Cup team. The foreplay podcast, all that has kind of brought him to light because he's jumped on for that kind of stuff. Um, Overall, it was just enjoyable to have him in the booth where he makes these little cracks and jokes that they're just entertaining. Like, there was the shot out of the bunker where the one dude is sitting there. He's got his knee up, like on the berm. His other foot's in the bunker. He's sitting there chipping. He hits it to like 3 feet, and Kisner's just sitting there like, you see that athlete in him? That's why we play this game.
That was Brendan Todd, his Georgia Bulldog good buddy that he was having a laugh at there. And it was funny that he got to have that on-course interview with Brendan Todd too, who was also a beauty in that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think them adding Kiz for these select events moving forward, I think it's a great thing for the game of golf, especially with all the turnover of the commentators in general. I think it's nice to have someone like that, especially because Kiz is just sitting there. As they're trying to interview him for the first thing, Kiz is sitting there like a little kid on the first day of school, just swinging back and forth in his chair, having like the grand old time. Like, I don't know what the hell's about to happen, but I'm going to enjoy it.
He's just a goofy, happy-go-lucky type of guy, and I'm absolutely here for it. He brings good vibes. Hope to see more of Kevin Kisner throughout the course of the season. Wish him luck this week as he'll be making his season debut at the Sony Open. Ross, before we get to the Sony Open, we do got to talk about what went down with the Korn Ferry Tour pros who were anticipating to make their debuts on the PGA Tour as full-time tour pros at the Sony Open, but that didn't wind up being the case. You want to go ahead and explain kind of what went down this week?
All right. So I actually had an article out earlier today on this. So anyone that wants to read a little deeper, it is now available via OnTap Sportsnet. But essentially, the Korn Ferry Tour is the PGA's version of minor league golf. The end of the year, the top 30 players are essentially guaranteed a PGA Tour card and become pros, to which they are guaranteed spots in select events. And in this case, the first professional event for most of these guys were guaranteed to play was this week's Sony Open. However, the problem was when they all flew in to Hawaii this week to attend the rookie symposium and learn the ways of the PGA Tour, the rules, everything. When they followed this meeting, they were essentially met by PGA Tour officials to tell them, "Hey guys, we know 35 of you are here. We actually only have 15 spots available."
How does that happen? How can we get to a point where you're making these guys come out to Hawaii on their own dollar and they don't have a spot in the field no longer? How does that happen?
So here's the thing. First of all, I would like to just get it out there because I've already had a lot of interaction with people with my article that the PGA Tour did cover the expenses for them to make the trip to Hawaii for the symposium. However, they were met with, just so you know, only 15 of you are going to be in this field. The other 15 to 20 players, because we have to include the 5 qualify or Q school players that also qualified, we're told you guys basically have to pay your way from here. So basically, there were 20 people that have a limited budget because let's be honest, Corn Ferry Tour, Q School, most of these guys made about 100 grand, which in our living is a decent amount of money. When you're playing on the minor league tour, that's hotels, flights, getting to tournaments weekly to keep the dream alive. That goes very, very quickly. These people didn't have the expenses. So what the problem is basically they were all told that they had to play in a Monday and Tuesday qualifier these past 2 days, which now has resulted in, unfortunately, what Jack and I were talking about off camera is it becomes it comes down to the number of spots based off withdrawals from the tournament. So these additional 20 guys that should have had a spot in the tournament, 4 people got in. The other 16 are now traveling home with no shot at their first professional paycheck.
And to make matters worse, it absolutely downpoured in Hawaii on both Monday and Tuesday. So the guys that did stick around to try and qualify got absolutely met by a torrential downpour, which soaked the course and led to more pauses. And I mean, what an absolute nightmare from the PGA Tour. And by the way, their reasoning for not having these spots is because, oh, we didn't anticipate this many people playing from the Sentry for the second consecutive. What do you mean? What do you mean? You didn't think of that? Like,
And I quote directly from my article, we did not account for this happening. More regular players entered this field than normal.
I mean, a great comment here, by the way. Just wanted to throw that out there for you, Ross. But to think the PGA Tour didn't anticipate this happening when, you maximize the field by basically double at the Sentry. How do you not anticipate that this many guys are going to stick around and want to, have a second week in Hawaii? I mean, it just goes to show the incompetence. And we've just seen it in so many different varieties over the last couple of years, Ross. The incompetence at the top of, regardless of the matter, they just never seem to handle things properly, like from their golf coverage to everything that's going on with Live to what just happened this week. I mean, it's an actual tragedy that these guys had to go and pay their own money to go home for the guys that didn't end up qualifying when they were mandated to go to Hawaii, even though those spots weren't still on the table. Like it's such a crime. And I wish I could say that I'm surprised the PGA Tour did something like this, but quite honestly, man, I'm not.
I mean, is it a surprise that a bunch of these guys jump from the Corn Ferry Tour to the Live Tour? Because at least they know they're getting paid.
Yeah, at least you got some financial backing, and for guys that, and I don't know if this is known that well to the public, like how much of a grind it is for guys who basically aren't the top names of the PGA Tour, like being an independent contractor and having to pay for your travel and your hotels and your food and your nutritionist and taking care of your body and everything that goes into it, man. It's a grind. And you brought up the $100,000 what guys make last year. That's kind of like breaking even. Like,
Well,
it's tough.
well, I mean, honestly, if you want to go with today's economy, even more, the fact these dudes were expected to shack up in Hawaii.
Yeah, right. I'm sure that's
Like,
cheap.
oh, sorry. We don't have a spot for you directly to guarantee you into a tournament where if you make the cut, you'll get a paycheck. You're going to play a Monday, Tuesday qualifier, and you have to pay for your own hotel, everything from here, if you want to participate in that. There's no surprise that a bunch of those guys jumped on a plane and got the hell out of there because what? There's going to be, yes, there's going to be 20 of us that play in a qualifier and there's going to be 2, 3, 4 spots maybe that we get in the field. A bunch of people turned tail and ran, and I'll play the next event that I have a chance at.
Eh, it's
At that point. I'm already down on this trip. I already lost money. I'm gonna cut my losses. I'm gonna get the hell out of here.
I would have, yeah. When you were texting me that, I basically responded saying, "Yeah, I completely understand." Like at that point in time, what else are you supposed to do? Just keep racking up the fees and good old expensive Hawaii? No. So it's unfortunate that that's the result that those guys had to come to. And I hope that the PGA Tour will do more than just cover their one-way travel fees going to Hawaii because that's pretty unbelievable, man.
And then I see a couple comments here on the side. Thank you, Anthony. We definitely appreciate that. And thank you, my buddy Rob out here in Rochester. Definitely appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the read.
Absolutely. Thank you all for the support. We greatly appreciate it here at the On Tap Sports Network. Ross, I think that it's time to take us to this week's event, the 2024 Sony Open at Waialae Country Club. Just mentioned a moment ago. A lot of golfers are coming from the Sentry. I believe it's 38 to be exact are part of the field. A lot of crossover. And that kind of leads to one of the best fields in Sony Open history, man. This is a really good field with Ludwig Aubert at the top. We got Tyrrell Hatton, Matt Fitzpatrick. Brian Harmon made a little bit of a run last week. He's back. Chris Kirk is back for the second week in a row. Russell Henley, Eric Cole, JT Poston, Sahith Theegala. Got to keep an eye on him after another close finish. It's a really good tournament here in Hawaii, and I think that just kind of builds to the excitement at the beginning of the season here. It's nice when you get two quality events in a row to kick things off and you don't have that lull following the Sentry.
Yeah, I mean, definitely what I'm looking at for this field this week is I think we're gonna get another name out of nowhere or early quick that's just going to grab those FedEx Cup points and move themselves up the list. Wouldn't be surprised to see someone come out and do like we kind of talked about earlier, one of those Lucas Glover type runs where just some really quick, fast, consistent performances to get their name on the board and move up from here.
Yeah, I could see that definitely as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see Chris Kirk continuing to play well. It looks like some people are on him once again based on the odds taking a little bit of a dash, but a little bit of a preview here on the Sony Open. I want to give you all some info on Waialae Country Club, the host venue of this tournament, which is actually the fourth longest host venue on the PGA Tour, believe it or not. Only Colonial Country Club, Augusta National, and Pebble Beach Golf Links have been a staple of the PGA Tour for longer. It's got a pretty cool history, does Waialae Country Club. Michelle Wie made her first start here way back in the day. Oh my gosh, I completely just blanked on his name. He was 16 years old and he made the cut here. I completely forget his name. They show the video every week. It'll come to me later on in the show, but Waialae Country Club is a really cool course and it does allow for kind of everyone to compete. It's a short track at just over 7,000 yards, par 70. So 12 par fours, 4 par threes, only 2 par fives. But the reason why it's kind of open to everyone is distance just isn't a factor here. Out of the 12 par fours, 9 of them are shorter than 460 yards. So everyone's going to be able to reach. And as an opposition to Kapalua last week, the venue of the Sentry, both courses in Hawaii here can offer some high scoring tournaments. One thing I am curious to see though, Ross, is last year Siwoo Kim won this thing at 18 under. And for a while, people have gotten this idea about Waialae Country Club that off the tee and accuracy, it just isn't important. And that people have been able to still hit a lot of greens in regulation out of the rough. Last year, the rough was up 3 inches and it's up to 3 inches again this year. I'm really curious to see if that's going to give guys trouble like it did last year. And it played a little bit more difficult than anyone expected. And driving accuracy was actually more crucial than anyone thought. So I know there's a lot of talk this week about driving accuracy not being important. I'm not leaning into that at all. I've gone into the data. You get punished for hitting the rough here at Waialae. I know the greens are still pretty sizable, but if you truly want to score and make birdies, you got to be playing from the fairway here. So that's something that I certainly noticed in comparison to just kind of the narrative that's out there, but it's a pretty straightforward track. If you're hitting it from the fairway, you're going to have wedge, short iron into a lot of these greens. So it's going to be a wedge and low iron fest. And it really comes down to whoever gets hot with the putter and can make the most putts. Interesting to note that 9 of the last 10 tournament winners here at the Sony Open have finished inside the top 10 in strokes gained putting that week. So that's certainly something that I'm focusing on. I think it's a really big second shot golf course coming from 125 to 200 yards. That's where a lot of the approaches come from. So for folks out there who are doing some research, those are kind of the things that I'm diving into and what I'm going to be keeping on my mind when breaking down what players I want to be placing wagers on. But it's a really good field, man. It's been hard for me to kind of narrow down selections at this point in time. For those who are watching, by the way, Ross is living in New York, and they are not legalized sports betting. So I'm really the one who's just going to be taking care of the sports betting side of things. And I'll be coming out with more content all throughout the week as far as my finalized picks. So you can go and find all of that there and some reasoning as to why I'm backing these guys. But I'm curious, Ross, out of these, I know it's a lengthy list of players. It's our first full field event of the season, but were there any names that stood out to you at all when just kind of seeing the field at all?
Well, first of all, I would just like to give a shout out to Dr. Trevor Hunt that I work with here at the University of Rochester, also commenting that he's played this course before. So
Ooh.
so he can sit and vouch for how tough it is. Once again, I'm going with how early in the season it is. I'm looking for, I think one of these young guns is gonna step up and take their opportunity. Last year, like you said, Siwoo Kim, who also still has one of the best golf moments of my life with Siwoo shaking
Shaking
that
that.
ass.
So good.
Yeah, uh, I I just see, I'm waiting on I'm waiting on to see who's gonna step up. I just constantly think that this early portion of the year is where you see the young guns step up, someone kind of stand out and make a name for themselves. Like you were saying, the course length for perspective, Max Homa's record-setting drive from last week would have been 9 yards over the shortest par four green.
That's a good point that you make. Not nearly as much slope or undulation in the fairways here at Waialae as there is in Kapalua. It just lets the ball roll forever there. And I believe there were over 250 400-yard drives just because of all the elevation and all of the slope at Kapalua. Yes, both these courses are in Hawaii, but they play very differently. But I think that's a great point that you bring up. And there's a lot of young talent in this field and just a lot of guys in general who could really maximize on this opportunity in comparison to some other guys who, look, do guys want to go out there and win every week? Yes, but there's motivation levels that differ in this game of golf, especially when we're ranging through 144 players. But it certainly looks like it's going to be a very good event based on the field that we have here. A couple guys that I do just want to shout out real quick that are catching my eye early on. I have a couple of long shot bets already made. I locked in Matty Schmid at 250 to 1 because I thought that was just a massive number for a guy who actually has been playing well in meaningful golf over on the DP World Tour and played pretty well during the swing season as well. Another guy who played well during the swing season and over the last 2 swing seasons has actually blown a chance to pick up his first PGA Tour win. I got it 100 to 1 this week. Ben Griffin feels like someone who's been knocking on the door, and I thought those were good odds. But just wanted to bring up some other guys that have been jumping out to me. Matt Kuchar, obviously, anytime you talk about short par 70 tracks, Kuchar's someone that I personally look at and has a pretty good track record. Cooch, baby. Just got to get the job done. Came so close in Mexico this fall. Adam Svensson, continue.
A fun fact for you. Do you know there is only one player in the history of the FedEx Cup to make every single FedEx Cup that it has been in place? That's Matt Kuchar.
There wasn't, was it JT? Who, someone else missed it last year who had been there was it Hideki? I think it was Hideki. Someone had been there every year along with Kuchar, and I think it might have been Hideki who ended up missing out on the Tour
But
Championship last
but
year.
but the thing is, Kuchar had been playing the tour even prior to its existence. Matt Kuchar has never missed the FedEx Cup.
Yeah, the guy, I mean,
Which is just unbelievable when you think about how tough it is to get into that range, that he has never missed it in his history. Even, I mean, he's in his upper 40s now, he's pushing 50, still just that short game, everything that he has kept him in contention where he makes it constantly, and just just a true journeyman of, hey, at the end of the year, I'm gonna be there. I may not win several times a year. I might win here and there, but at the end of the year, I'm gonna be there.
yeah, I thought this was a funny comment from your boy Trevor. Played, yes, didn't say I played well. That's a good one. But hey,
And then
Kuchar,
quick
I
shot.
will say, Kuchar, he really plays those tracks really well. Like he maximizes the tracks where he has a chance at. Matt Kuchar's not a guy who's going to go out there and compete at the U.S. Open or compete at those long tracks where you need to drive it a mile to have a chance. But ones like these, the par 70s that are short, where he can use his wedges and let that short game kind of do a lot of the heavy lifting, he still is able to maximize those. So those are the reasons I like Kuchar this week. You're also going to give a shout out. Who else were you shouting out, Ross? I
I'm
apologize for
I'm
cutting
gonna
you
give
off,
a
buddy.
shout out to my boy Pat Grant, golfing with Patty G. Actually doing some really cool content on his own. He currently is exploring multiple courses through Illinois, and he is just filming himself, golf hole 9 here with me. Just a fun little content, fun little follow, starting off his own thing. So definitely give him a look, because the content's fun. He films like he's playing around with the boys. But thanks, Pat, for definitely tuning in and helping us grow the brand. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, and everyone go and check out the content, man. Always here to support everyone along their journey as they're trying to find their way, baby. I love to hear that stuff. Who else was catching my eye this week, Ross? Before we go and talk about another big elephant, Corey Connors is getting a lot of love, and for those who have been watching the show for a long time, you know that Corey Connors is my boy, and I did bet him here last year where he finished T12 once again. 22-1, it feels like short odds to bet on Corey Connors. So I don't know if I'm going to get there, but I do have interest in him. I have interest in Chris Kirk, JT Poston, Justin Rose, and Benny On. Obviously not going to have room to bet on all of them, so make sure to stay tuned for tomorrow when I will be finalizing my bets and posting that all out on socials. Ross, we got one more major thing to talk to before we kind of wrap things up here, buddy, and that's Tiger Woods and Nike having their relationship come to an end. Maybe not the most surprising news, but just given how monumental of a pair they've been over the years, it does feel a little weird, right?
So I actually started reporting on this about 2 weeks prior to Thanksgiving, that the deal was coming to an end. Hadn't heard a lot in terms of expansion or extension on the deal. We went through the PNC championship, and I kind of recovered that, hey guys, this is it, and I'm not hearing anything. And then shortly after that article came out, as soon as the deal ended on December 17th, December 18th, Charlie Wood signed a deal with Grayson.
And it seems like people are saying that could be the likely path for Tiger as well.
So my thoughts are, I don't know how much you followed through the holiday season. Tiger was doing a lot of promotional stuff with his other sponsor, TaylorMade. He brought back Mac Daddy Santa, where his elves were Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood, Colin Morikawa. Um, Personally, with this next step, it seems like it's the going to be the back nine of his career. Like you and I have kind of talked off camera, it just seems like a different Tiger overall. He seems like he's more focused on being a dad, enjoying the moment, enjoying the game, enjoying the opportunity in general. I think this next step, the most likely thing, is probably a deal with TaylorMade. Only because TaylorMade can offer the full variety of what Nike cut back on 10 years ago. For everyone unfamiliar, we had, the Nike Golf, we had the Nike Golf equipment, the balls, everything. Nike cut back on that deal. Tiger ended up signing with TaylorMade for equipment purposes because Nike went strictly apparel. I think this next step, more than likely, is going to be Tiger cutting a deal with TaylorMade where they can offer a full Tiger line of equipment, apparel, everything. It just the marketing overall and get him back. I've already seen rumors from a couple sources today that potentially he's even the last Nike deal Tiger received was 8 years and $200 million. I'm seeing rumors already all over the place of TaylorMade going 10 years and $450 million for Tiger services. Where at this point, I'm not going to be surprised to see it, especially because he's already so close in with them. He's done all this marketing in the past few weeks. Personally, I don't think you're going to get an announcement until he shows up in LA next month. I think he's going to show up in LA. He's going to be wearing a shirt. It's going to have a brand on it. And that's when we're going to know what it is for this because he's alluded to there's a new chapter coming. I don't think he's going to do this whole LeBron the decision thing. I don't think he's going to make a big deal about it. I think he's going to keep it low. He's going to keep it to himself. He's only trying to play one event a month or so. I think he's going to show up in LA next month. There's going to be a logo on his shirt, and that's when we're going to know, oh, this is it.
How funny would it be if Tiger just showed up in LA with the Mac Daddy Santa outfit and just went no brand, just no shirt in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're gonna get. I think that's gonna be our. I think that's gonna be our moment of truth where we find out like who it is. Is he's gonna show up in LA next month? There's gonna be a logo on his shirt, and we're all just gonna sit there and be like, oh, so that's who he went with. Got it.
Yeah,
He's gonna keep it quiet.
Yeah, I don't see him making this a big fuss or making this a big deal. I am curious though. I also did hear some people talking about the possibility that he goes and just kind of does his own thing and maybe launches his own. Have you heard anything along those lines, or do you think that's likely, or what do you think?
I haven't seen anything reported. Like I've said, I've been following this for like 2 months now. I haven't seen anything definitively reported, but also the dude is a $1 billion athlete. He has the funds to launch his own thing. So I'm not going to be surprised to see a Tiger brand go out there where he has his own venture, especially because he has the money and the capital to launch it. He could go anywhere to any company, even if it's a Tiger brand company solo with a tailor-made backing. Like tailor-made warehouses, everything that produced the
Yeah.
apparel material equipment. He's big enough he can go do that, and I don't see that outside the realm either of like possibility.
Yeah, will definitely be interesting to see what he is donning on his shirt whenever he shows up to the Genesis Invitational, and we expect him to make his debut. It's a wild time, also, Ross, in general, for just golf brands and guys jump in suit. Like not only Tiger, obviously, and Nike, but we've seen Jason Day make some news
Too much,
because of
too
his
much
changes.
material.
Yeah,
Just too,
give me
too,
give me
too
your
much.
thoughts.
It. Hey, I'm all for it. Just those pants threw me off so bad.
They were
That
bad.
that that took us back to like the early 2000s again, and I just wasn't having it. Just I mean, you can call me new school, it's fine, but like the huge baggy pants, just too much material. I like the even myself. I like the trim fit. Everything is what I rock when I'm out on the course. Um, but I also get it. A lot of these guys are bailing on like the Nike brand. It's just Nike is strictly apparel based. They really don't offer too much to the sport at this time where guys are investing their money in other places. There's other brands that are upcoming that have something to invest. A lot of guys, if you watch on course, are wearing companies like Roback.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of different stuff going on in this social media era with just stuff getting marketed left and right. I'm really interested to see what's kind of going to be this new wave, what guys are going to be doing instead of, obviously Nike's not as popular as it is now. Who do they have now, by the way? They have Brooks and who else?
Scotty Scheffler, Rory.
Oh, they got Finau too. He definitely wears the Nike shirt still. But other than
Yeah.
that, it's like it's gotten pretty thin. I mean, yeah, they got the big boys, but like not as the quantity isn't what it used to be.
No, I mean the quantity and the quality. Just
True.
like Jason Day said, he felt like a walking billboard with Nike, that he was essentially walking out there and in this new ridiculous shirt, something just ridiculous pattern, whatever, just felt like he was being forced to wear these things, where he went a little bit more of a contemporary route. Although I don't know how contemporary you could have called that outfit from the weekend, but whatever.
Hey, I'll tell you one guy that Nike should go hit up if they're trying to make people walking billboards. That's Victor Hovland. That guy doesn't care what he's going to wear out there. He'll take your money and he'll wear it.
Yeah, at this point, I think Victor Hovland is just trolling people with the outfits.
It has
I
to be,
I
dude.
I think he heard the rumor that that outfit is so ridiculous so many times over the weeks, where now he's just showing up like, let's see what this week's social media says. This is what I'm gonna wear.
Yeah,
But personally, his sponsor's probably loving it.
getting all the attention. I'll tell you what, they're doing that job. No such thing as bad publicity, right?
Yeah, I mean, unless it's Scotty Scheffler. Nike has Scotty Scheffler, which number one player in the world. That's great. Scotty Scheffler approaching 2 years is the number one player. He's got to hold that spot for another 12 to catch Tiger for all time weeks.
That's absolute insanity, and it's still not. I don't think fully computed into everyone's brains just how dominant Tiger Woods was. I mean, as someone who it likes to bet on golf, Ross, looking back at like what the lines were like in 2001, Tiger was like even money to win the golf tournament. Even money to win a golf tournament. What are we talking about?
If you go back for I've already done the math from like 1998 through 2010, I believe. If you did the math and you bet on Tiger, you hit like 2 out of 4 on tournaments.
What a fun time that must have been. Just betting Tiger every week and just saying, let it ride, baby. I'll win twice a month. It'll be great. I don't care about the odds.
I was going to say, if we were allowed to bet at that age, you and I would already be retired right now.
Yeah.
If we were able to throw money on Tiger every week.
100%. I would have definitely rode Tiger's coattails.
But also, I was having a talk with Tony off camera we were talking about the Scotty Scheffler thing of, he's approaching 2 years of being the world number one, which again, astronomical numbers of he's got to hold this for another 12 if he wants to catch Tiger's all-time record. Tony does not like Scotty Scheffler at all. And I kind of agree with him and from the PGA standpoint of, he's a staple figure in the game. Scotty Scheffler is just such a vanilla person that it's really hard for him to be the best player in the game and drive the game of golf, because I'm going to go on a walk with my wife. I'm going to get a coffee, and then I play golf Thursday through Sunday, and I finish in the top 12. And then I repeat 36 weeks a year.
Yeah, he's about as plain Jane as it can get. And I feel like for those reasons, he gets like a polarizing kind of feel from fans. Like there aren't many people who I feel like are kind of neutral on Scotty Scheffler. They either love him or they either hate him. And I feel like it's for that reason. It's because he just doesn't really offer all that much besides playing phenomenal golf. There's not really all that much there to dive into. It's just Scotty playing top 15, top 10 golf week in and week out and living like the most boring life you could imagine outside of it.
Well, then, like, you see the interviews, like, after the rounds, we're like, Scotty, what happened? And he just does, like, a 30, 45-second interview. Well, I could have played better.
Yeah, he is very, very monotone, just not a whole lot.
But, like, that's the thing. It's really hard for, the number one player in the world is just so I guess basic would be the word, where there's not a firing it. We're like, could you imagine if Scotty Scheffler had like a Tyrrell Hatton attitude? We're just like, oh well, I fucked this up.
Yeah, but I do wonder how much of that just level-headedness and just not really being all that eccentric is what's kind of led to him being just so consistent. I mean, week after week, like maybe there's something to that. And it's not to say that someone else with a more, a bigger personality can't go and be the number one, but it just makes you wonder if that like impacts Scotty's grind at all, or if that kind of just helps him stay in his own lane throughout the course of it. I know it's not exciting for the fans, but the results are certainly exciting.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. I mean, it'd be more exciting if he could figure out how to putt.
It would be. It would probably be game over if he learned how to putt. It would be a scary, scary thought if Scotty Scheffler
Well,
learned how to
well,
putt.
well, I mean, he leads the tour in basically every single stat, and he's basically dead last in putting. And then he's finishing average spot is 12th per tournament. Imagine if he just learned how to sink a putt.
Dude, it's insane. And it's
Scotty Scheffler would be winning just about every other week if he could putt, but he can't. And
another
I mean that's just the fact.
another
All,
great Kisner moment though on the broadcast. Did you hear what Kisner said about Scotty's putting
no.
situation? He said he thinks he lines up like over the putts like he does with his driver, and he
Yes.
pushes everything. And I think that's interesting because Scotty does heel his putts a lot, which Kisner said, you can go and hit a fade out in the fairway, but you can't fade a putt.
I did catch that in the when I was recapping for today. And then did you see there was also a story? Scotty's got a brand new putter. And essentially the putter he has is like a dude that works out of his garage.
I did know that. He's tinkered with a couple of different ones like that, I believe.
He was working with Scotty Cameron for a long time, which even I want a Scotty Cameron in my bag. So if Emily's listening in the background, you know what I want for Christmas next year. But no, essentially, I guess there's a new guy that kind of came out of nowhere, learned how to develop and make these clubs or these putters, and he basically does it out of a garage shop, handcrafts each one, and he's got a back order list of like 4 years of people that want them. And Scotty Scheffler's got his hands on one of the original models.
Well, we're going to have to see if he's going to be able to put together a putter that'll cooperate with Scotty Scheffler, because that's been one of the biggest storylines on the PGA Tour over the last year. Ross, I think it's probably about time to wrap this thing up. We're closing in on an hour here, my friend. I was curious, you got any final thoughts or anything else you wanted to touch on here real quick?
Just the PGA Tour, the way they're starting the season is just disappointing overall. I mean, just a huge letdown to all the rookies. We should be seeing there should be a lot more new names in this field, and it's just an unfortunate thing to see, because there is a lot of talent on the Corn Ferry Tour up and coming. Over half those guys I would like to see, just because obviously fall golf is a little bit slower. So I followed the Corn Ferry Tour in the finals because it was on TV. You wanted to see the new guys. Most of them aren't in this thing anymore. So we're gonna wait and see. They'll get a shot further down the road, but just PGA needs to be better. We're already starting out on a bad foot, but I think this week is going to be a big opening for some of the young guns that are already established on the tour. I'm not going to be surprised to see someone like Sahith go low again and continue the momentum. And I mean, we'll see what happens with this tournament. This is where a lot of guys. This is the early part of the season where a lot of guys set their pace for the remainder of the year.
Same year, or new year, same PGA Tour, excuse me. Unfortunate to see that they keep making decisions and having things happen like this, and it just shows that they're just not run as properly as they could be. Maybe by the end of 2024, they'll have it figured out, and this whole golf world will maybe be merged. I'm not going to get my hopes up because Jay Monahan's still in charge, so we'll see what ends up happening there. But to everyone who tuned into this episode, just want to say thank you very much for all of your support. be sure to go and check out Ross's articles that he's produced throughout the week, breaking down Tiger Woods and Nike's relationship coming to an end, everything that happened with the guys on the Core Ferry Tour and Q School at the Sony Open. You can go and find that at ontapsportsnet.com. Also, be on the lookout for my final bets article that's going to be coming out tomorrow. I'm going to be finalizing probably 5 or 6 golfers who I'm going to be placing a wager on here this week for the Sony Open. Make sure to stay tuned for that. And also make sure to use the promo code ONTAP at Bet Rivers to get up to a $250 match on your first deposit. Again, that's promo code Bet Rivers promo code ONTAP with the Bet Rivers Sportsbook. All right, everyone, thank you again for tuning into the show. We're going to be back next week recapping the Sony Open. The tournament following is going to be the American Express, and we'll be diving into all the other goodies that happen in between. So from yours truly, Jack Bushman, Ross Baran, glad to have you on the show, Ross. Thank you so much again, man. It was a really fun first episode, and looking forward to doing a lot of these more, brother.
Same here, man. Let's go golf.
Let's go golf, baby. Everybody, crack them, lock them. We'll see you next time. Thanks again for tuning into Golf On.